Welcome to the Hotline Chat. It's a conversation for me.
It's the authenticity for me. I hate you. And it's the good vibes and friendship for me.
Yeah, as you can see today, we are missing Sabrine. She is hard at work at her thesis for school, but we wanted to make sure to still get some content out to you guys. So we're just going to be doing a couple mini episodes while she's away. We love you.
You just shoot it up for her, like, you know. First, been a while since when was the last time we recorded?
The last time we recorded was it last month?
I think it was.
Sure.
Cool. A lot has happened since last month. You had the Derek Chauvin verdict happen. That was a big thing since we're both here in Minnesota. You're in Minneapolis, I'm in St. Paul. But before we start off with that, I gotta put y'all on, man. And if y'all ain't already on, I don't even know what to tell you right now. Snowfall, the series Snowfall is one of the best TV shows out right now. If you are not watching Snowfall, I don't even know what to say. Have you watched Snowfall? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Going to school, going to work.
Niggas always going to school.
You know what I'm saying? Responsibilities.
Get out of here. But yeah, Snowfall is one of the great. It's a great show. You should watch it.
What is it about?
It's loosely based off of the real Freeway Ricky Ross and how like he worked with the CIA to bring crack into L.A. or Watts or wherever they were at. But it's loosely based, but it's really good. John Singleton made the show. He's executive produced the show. Rest in peace to John Singleton.
Right.
But it's a great show. Okay. It's great stories. I don't even know how to explain it. Like I was hooked from the first episode.
Okay.
But with that, I don't think there's any other shows that I've been getting into. That's the only one. Falcon and Winter Soldier was good. If you ain't watched that six episodes,
I've heard about that. I haven't watched it.
It's only 6 episodes. Yeah.
Once again, I'll be doing a lot.
Okay. All right. Everybody always doing.
I'm like, what did I watch? What have I watched recently? Yeah, I don't have any suggestions for you guys.
Yeah, Falcon and Winter Soldier is good. It's really good. It's basically like to be honest, I keep wondering how Disney is putting so much money into these series because they basically have the production of a movie with a TV show on streaming services. But it's a really good production, really good story. So it's really good. So you should check that out. Other than that, and those seasons are done now. So season 4 of Snowfall is done, and that mini series of Falcon and Winter Soldier is done now too. So you should check those 2 out. Okay. On to the verdict. We got the verdict. Was it this week?
No.
Was that last week?
Yeah.
Last Tuesday.
Was it last Tuesday?
Yeah. I remember. We had to shut down.
Yeah.
We got the verdict last Tuesday around in mid-afternoon, close to like 4:30 or around that time. How did you feel about the results of the verdict?
So I was nervous before the verdict because, the United States has a history of letting murderers go, especially when they wear a blue uniform. And so I live in downtown, and I was just like, let's see what happens. We got some groceries, and we're like, it's either going to go one way or the other. The overall verdict itself, I feel like it's accountability. I see why a lot of people are happy. It was like a bittersweet moment for me just because, it's not just about George Floyd. There's so many people who have been killed at the hands of police. And when I think about that, it's saddening. But it was emotional. I was crying because I was just like, wow, I can't believe this actually happened. Like the fact that they actually, convicted him for his crime it felt like the Twilight Zone. So yeah, it was like bittersweet. It's important that accountability, was had. I don't think that it's justice because there's so many people who have been killed and we have so much more work to do. But yeah, I think it was a step towards accountability, and we need to hold more people accountable. And there needs to be a consistent, a consistent outcome in situations where Black lives are being taken by the hands of police. So that's how I felt about it.
Do you?
How'd you feel about it?
Did you watch the trial as it was going?
I did.
Yeah, I didn't watch the trial.
Yeah. I didn't watch the entire thing, but I watched bits and pieces just for my own mental health. I was not about to. Yeah.
I think so. I only seen clips, but from the clips I've seen, and my perception of it is that they was handing them up like they were like fuck him, here you go, type deal. I ain't never seen something. They was really like, yo, here you go. So I wasn't really super surprised that they found him guilty, because I was like, I think I was listening to an interview with someone, I forgot who it was, but they kind of made similarities from the OJ trial, where I think like you said, it wasn't like I don't know if they found him really, like they felt he was guilty, but either they did it for the fact because they don't want shit to go crazy again, and it's just not like Minneapolis and the Twin Cities that'll go crazy. Last time this happened, it was a countrywide, almost worldwide thing.
Yeah.
And they don't want that to happen. And the same thing with the OJ thing, because Rodney King and the riots happened after that, and they felt like if they got OJ guilty, then they'll riot again. So it was like, we're going to get him not guilty. So, but I do think it is some justice for the family, or as much justice as you can get.
Right.
So it is some justice for the family.
Yeah.
And that's more than most of us have gotten. So
right.
I am happy for them. I don't celebrate this as a victory. I look at it as terms of like, you take 10 of mine and I did 1 of yours, I'm still got an L, right?
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if anything changes because of this, unless is there some sort of laws that are enacted to make it more, make police think twice before they do things like this. But I don't know. I didn't feel any way either way or about this. I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't really take a lot of information in from it. I kind of zoned out from it. So.
Okay.
But yeah, it's I think the next one now, again in Minnesota, is what's the lady name? I forget the lady's name.
I forgot her name, but the Dante Wright situation.
Yes, that's gonna be the next.
I think it's like
Kim something. Yeah.
I think.
So that's the next one. That's probably gonna be. It's crazy that we that happened right during this trial when
Not
coming
only
into
that,
coming into the trial.
The one with, I think her name is Michaela.
That wasn't in Minnesota though, was it?
No, it wasn't in Minnesota. But the fact that happened minutes before the actual verdict, that's crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just it's a little nuts out here. But yeah, hopefully y'all President Biden figure something out to get something done and get a law passed. I was talking with Lo earlier about this, and you can't get on an interview and be like, y'all, you're not black if you don't vote for Biden, and then you haven't passed a law since you've been in. You passed all these other laws, but you haven't passed a law yet for us. So hopefully something happens. But yeah.
Accountability.
Yeah. And then going into accountability and accountability subject, what does accountability mean to you?
What is accountability? Oh, wow.
Why are you looking?
Because you looked at me like, what does accountability mean to
you?
Accountability means holding yourself responsible for an outcome. So that's what it means to me. It's taking on responsibility for how a situation is and understanding the impact that you have, whether that's impacts that you have with your words or impacts that you have with your actions. That's accountability to me. And I feel like a lot of people just don't know how to take accountability,
That was going to be my question. Do you think do you think the world is lacking individual accountability nowadays?
Yes, I would definitely say the world is lacking individual accountability. I think that as like corporate entities, what looks like accountability is really people just making sure that they are following the trend. You know, we just talked about like the trial and the verdict, and I feel like a lot of, you know, companies who had issues, or, you know, they hadn't hired, you know, people because of their skin color or just whatever the case may be, because it was now at the forefront, they decided to publicize their stance on police brutality when they didn't necessarily do that before, right? And I feel like accountability has a sense of ownership, and I think that people don't take ownership for just little things because they don't want to look bad, because the society that we live in is all about this picture perfect world or this picture perfect image. And I feel like it really does, especially the younger generation, and the older generation too, a disservice, because when you aren't able to take accountability, that thing now has power over you. It has power over you. So yeah, I do think that people don't know how to do it, especially men. I feel like are not taught. No. Let me finish my statement. Let me finish my
I was like, yo, I'm
statement.
feeling like, where did that
Before
come
you
from,
come
G?
for me, hold on.
I'm like, yo, what?
Hold on. Chill out. It's all good. Listen, I feel like men aren't given the opportunity to be taught what it looks like to be accountable. And I feel like they don't, like a lot of people don't give, and I'm just going to speak from my experience. I feel like a lot of people don't give, you know, they don't sit down and have a conversation with them and be like, hey, this is what it looks like to have accountability. Because most of the time, I feel like people want men to react a certain way in a situation. You know, I'm not saying men don't take accountability.
No, I'm listening to what you're saying.
I'm just saying, I feel like, especially now, younger boys are not being taught what it looks like to take accountability, because it's no longer as important as how much money you're making, and maybe that was the case before too. So yeah, and I also feel the same way too with just like parents not knowing how to take accountability. There's like a lot of different groups that I feel like don't necessarily know how to take accountability, and I feel like it is something that has to be taught.
Yeah, I mean...
Did I say anything that, you know what I'm saying, made you want to come for me?
I don't know that the men thing was kind of like, I looked at you like, yeah, what are you talking about, G? Because I can't speak for younger dudes, younger men, and like how their journey to find accountability. Because accountability, I don't, like when you say I need to be taught, I don't know if it can be taught. Like that's a life experience that you learn, and whether you take that in or accept that, that's what it is. Because me growing up, like I was like, to be honest with you, like I was always taught about accountability. Like, you know, the first things, something happened to me, and they were like, it ain't my fault, this and that, and like, you know, and my mom was like, you know, you're like, no, nigga, it is. Like, you know what I'm saying? You did this is how you got here. Life isn't fair. This is what it is.
So she did teach you.
Yeah. But that never stuck with me. Like when I was younger, like you'll feel like when you're going through something, sometimes you feel like the world is against you. This is that. Yeah. It ain't never your fault. This and that. And it takes some self-reflection to really be able to be like, hey, you know, I need to take accountability of how I got to this place, and like be able to do that. And I think the problem that maybe the issue is the fact that there's so many people who don't take accountability now, that everybody lives in that bubble that nothing is their fault. Everything is somebody else's fault. My father is that way. My father never took accountability of where he was in life, and he always like, hey, it's a white man, it's this, it's that, but he never took accountability of that. He stayed in the same place. And I think just thinking about it now, like that's one of the things when I seen that example of like somebody that's always blaming everybody else but don't take accountability for what's going on in their life. I'm like, oh, I need to start figuring my shit out. You know what I'm saying? And like hold myself accountable. Now, accountability is not easy.
It's not.
It's not easy at all. Like it's because you have to look at your own bullshit and be like, I was on some bullshit right there. That's how I got here, right?
But it's a muscle.
It's a muscle.
And the more that you do it, the more that it becomes second nature. It's never going to be fun, but the outcome in the end is good. It feels better than if you didn't take accountability. Because what people do when they don't take accountability is everything happens to them. They don't have control over their lives because this is happening to me. These people are treating me this way. I'm the victim. All these different things. But when you take accountability for how things are going, right, you can take a look at things from a different perspective. And now you have the power to control or shift situations. So it's not fun, but growth isn't fun. Healing isn't fun. Success isn't, like, the journey to success isn't always fun. But it's the things that help you to really stay grounded and find who you are, you know?
So how do you manage accountability on the same, how can you manage a person's accountability, but also the mental health aspect of it? So, for example, like I was talking to a friend, what was this? I think last Thursday. You know, been knowing this friend for a while, woman friend of mine. And, we were just talking about, her going through, the people that she's dated. And I'm like, because I think she fell out with another friend because of the people she's dated. And I'm like, I mean, I can understand that because the people you've dated have always not been, up to par. And there always was a point where you look at people and you say, hey, you need to take accountability for who you allow into your life and who you do with and what you do with that. But then one thing she said to me that was very I took a step back was like, well, I don't feel like I deserve someone who is, more, who is more than what I've been dating. And that's a mental health aspect of that because your self-esteem is not, I think it's like your self-esteem and then your self-worth is just, you see it as so low that you accept so low. So like you can say, I can talk to her about accountability and you being accountable and be like, hey, no, fuck that. You shouldn't be allowing people into your life who like mentally, physically abuse you. But then when you feel that your self-worth mentally is not worth that, how do you balance those?
So I think with balancing, you're talking about when you're having a conversation with somebody, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and you're trying to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think anytime that you have a conversation with somebody, it's important to know where they're at. So, and it's important to understand what the intention is of the conversation that you're trying to have. So if your intention is for them to see, hey, like this is a pattern and this isn't a good pattern, right? There's a way that you can always take care of someone in a conversation while still holding them accountable. Accountability doesn't have to look like you did this, you did that, it doesn't have to look like that. Accountability can look like, hey, you said that you wanted to have more happiness. You said that you wanted, your children to, feel more, safe. You said that you wanted to, make more money. You said that you wanted to do these things, right? So what is it that you can do, or what is it that I can help you with so that you can take yourself out of this situation? Because then you're not placing blame. Accountability isn't blame. And I think that's what people think a lot of the times is if I'm taking accountability, I'm taking all the blame. If I'm saying someone is accountable, they're taking all the blame. And that's not necessarily the case. Accountability is just really taking a look at what is it that I'm contributing to this situation. So it's not about, like you were saying, who she's picking, right? So if she's like, I feel like this, that's perfect. Because now she's starting off at, whatever the cause is for some of the symptoms for whatever is creating the outcome that she doesn't want. And so that's a step. It doesn't have to be a one-size-fits-all. And accountability can be a journey too. In my own life, I've had people that I've wanted to hold accountable for things. People that I want, sometimes I think for a long time I thought accountability looked like an apology. Like if somebody said sorry to me, then that means that, they were being accountable for their actions. But what I've learned is it's not necessarily about getting an apology out of someone, but it's about setting boundaries. Sometimes you can't control how someone else is going to, most of the time you can't control how someone else is going to live their life, right? And there are a lot of things that can happen to us that frustrate us, that stress us out, that make us sad, that, really have an impact on just our overall experience. But in saying all that, we also have the ability, if we are able to set boundaries, to still have a level of accountability for the people that we can't, that don't want to listen to us, or that, don't want to take accountability. So anyways, back to your question, I would definitely say it's not about blaming or placing blame. It's a journey. How would you define it though?
Excuse me?
How would you define accountability?
I think what I said is really for me, how I define it is basically looking into oneself. For me, how I do stuff is usually if I end up in a spot where I'm torn between how I got here, it might be a bad spot, this or that nature. I look deep and like I said before, I was on some bullshit. This is how I got here. You know what I'm saying? Can I say? So mostly how I look at this is that I know how I got here. I know the mistake that I made to get here. I know the actions that it took for me to get here. Can I promise myself that I will never make that same mistake again? No, because I'm a human being and sometimes motherfuckers do whatever. But I have to be able to acknowledge the fact that, because how I feel is I never. Who says this a lot? Charlemagne says this a lot. He's like, you're never as good as they say you are, and you're never as bad as they say you are. So I never put myself at this high level where I'm just above all mistakes, above all, all this anything bad, right? I know that I can fuck up just like anybody else. But being able to recognize those fuck ups and try to adjust to that is one thing that I really try to strive to do. Like I said before, it is difficult. But one of the things that one of the things that I really, really stay away from, and it's the opposite of accountability, and it's self-pity. Because what self-pity does is say, hey, it goes to what you were saying before about the whole world is against me. I'm not I have no control over anything. The world is against me. I just have bad luck. This is just my life. I can walk out of here right now and something bad happens to me. Something bad always happening. You know what I'm saying? It's like a glass half empty type deal. And self-pity doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't give you any results or anything like that in real life. I think nowadays in social media, self-pity gets you a lot of attention. But in real life out here in the world, I don't think self-pity gets you a lot. I think, and you have to, at some point, you have to turn that around and reflect and be like, hey, what can I adjust to be able to get that glass to a half full instead of half empty?
I do think accountability can be taught. I know you said earlier that you don't think, it can. I think accountability can be taught because I was having a conversation with my brother, and my brother, I don't know what he did. It wasn't anything major, but he did something that annoyed me. He said he was going to read a message that I had sent. I had written a specific note for him or whatever, okay. Right? So he said he was going to read it. He didn't. The next day, I'm like, did you read it? He's like, yeah, I'm going to do it right now. He didn't. So on the third day, I'm like, okay, so now you just wasted my time, my energy that I put into writing this.
Maybe he got school, he got this, he got that, maybe
he has school, that's it. Okay. I had a conversation with him, and I was like, he was like, yeah, I'm sorry. And I was like, that's not how you take accountability. You can say I'm sorry, right? But what are you sorry for? What's actually, because a lot of people say I'm sorry, but what are you actually sorry for? What is the impact of what you did or didn't do? So I was like, in taking accountability, I was like, this is something that you can use in your life. If you do something, first, if you give your word to something, it's important that you do it, right? But if you can't, because we're all human, and we're not always going to honor the things that we say, it's important to be like, hey, your time, whatever it is, right? So like, for example, in that situation, your time is valuable. You took time out to do this. I understand that I said I was going to do it and I had you waiting. And moving forward, this is what I can do differently. And I think that's what accountability looks like. It's about acknowledging the impact. It's about taking a look at what you can do differently. And it's about making a new commitment about what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And then from there, the rest is all based on your actions. So I feel like it can be taught. It's just, it's not a normal conversation because it's uncomfortable. And people don't want to deal with feeling like they did something wrong. Nobody wants to deal with that.
That's true.
It's like the kid who gets, caught stealing some candy as a little kid. You're like, oh my God, I'm just trying to eat some of this candy.
He wasn't good at stealing.
Huh?
Or he wasn't good at stealing.
I mean, I meant like from like the kitchen cabinet, like.
Oh, I thought you were talking about from the stuff. I'm gonna say, because I was in it. I was racking it up.
No, okay. But
I
I feel like it doesn't feel good. So how do you feel like? Do you feel like men and women take it? One, do you feel like women are held accountable and take accountability? And two, do you think men and women take accountability in the same way?
I don't think they do in the same way. I mean, it's different. I mean, both men and women are. I think it's a human thing, and not want to be able to feel you're wrong about something. Mm-hmm. I think, from my experience, women have a harder time admitting.
Okay.
From my experience, that's all I'm saying. From my experience, women have a harder time of admitting wrongness, especially in relationships I've been in. A woman can be wrong and they be dead ass wrong, and once they find out they're wrong, it won't be no apology. Like, well, how do we get here? We should have done that. It's kind of a thing like that. So, I mean, that's.
I feel like guys do the same thing too.
I can see that. I can see that. But I think it's a human thing. I don't think it's something that's like men and women like a thing. Like who does? I don't think one does more than the other. I just think that it's just a human thing that nobody wants to be wrong, and then to feel wrong, you feel wrong. You feel slighted in some way because you were wrong about something. And instead of just fessing up and like, hey, I was wrong. This is the way to change. It's harder to do that. And
let me ask you a question. When was the time that you didn't take accountability for something that you knew that you should?
That I didn't?
Mm-hmm.
No, you gotta ask me some shit that I don't. Let's see here. Accountability that I did. Blah 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 blah.
Oh, you just accountable out here, and
well, come on now, don't do that. Well, you give one, and I'll probably think of one while you doing. I think I've talked about one.
Oh, the situation.
Yeah, I talked about one already.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm trying to think of.
Okay, let me ask you this instead.
What?
Sometimes, what is it that holds you back from wanting to take accountability? Or how does it feel when someone tells you to take accountability for something that you don't think you should? What do you do in that situation?
You step back and see. So when somebody asks me to take accountability and I feel like I shouldn't have to, I kind of get other people's perspective about it, right? And sometimes I might change my perspective because me looking at the situation by myself, sometimes I'll be like, I'll stand 10 toes down and like, yo, this is what it is. This is how this ain't my fault. This is, whatever, right? But I'll ask like other people around me, like, hey, this is the situation. Do you think, was I wrong? Stuff of that nature. So that's usually how I kind of like deal with those type of things, because like if I sit in my own bubble and just feel this way, I'm only getting my side of it, right? So I think that's the other thing. What was the other question?
I don't remember.
Look at that. Old age.
So if I'm old, what that make you?
I'm young.
Ancient.
I like wine.
Ancient.
I like wine out here. Could you ask me about how do I do it?
Oh, okay. So like, when has there been a time like when you don't want to take accountability?
Oh, don't want to take accountability? The only time it's very hard to take accountability when there's a change you don't want to make. And usually when that's a change you don't want to make, that's involving someone else.
Give me an example.
Like, I can give you an example of, let's say, like a girl. Oh! Ex-girlfriend, right?
Okay, you said you ready.
One ex-girlfriend.
Okay.
So, let's see if this falls in place, right?
Okay.
So, I had an ex-girlfriend, very beautiful girl, nice girl. It was a long-distance relationship, right? Mm-hmm. She was, what happened? She used to drink a lot, right? And so what happened was, I'm noticing this later on. We talking on the phone every night. I'm noticing that she drunk every time I talk to her. So I'm like, okay, this is an issue, right? Mm-hmm. So what happens is that when we see each other, like, how the dynamic of the relationship works is like when we see each other, she'd come down here. She wouldn't drink all the time she was down here, but when she drank, it'd be, how can I say, like she would be more sexually aggressive.
Okay.
But then not just sexually aggressive, just aggressive
in
period.
general.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I had to, I don't know if this fits in the accountability part, right? But then, like, once she left, she went back home one time, and this is after, like, she went back home one time, so I had to sit and think about it, like, yo, what am I trading off here, right? I said, at one point, I gotta say something because this is like she's living a lifestyle that's not sustainable throughout the longevity of her life.
Right.
But then, also the fact of it is that when she drinks, it goes down. You know what I'm saying, right? But when it goes good, it goes good. And when it goes bad, it goes bad, right? So, like, I'm caught between, like, what do I want to do? And there's a right, and to be honest with you, only thing I'm caught between is not two gray area decisions. It's the right decision and the wrong decision.
Right.
So I decide, to take I take accountability. I'm like, yo, if I don't say something, I'm accountable for what happens to her. Because what happened was, and what made me came to that decision as I'm thinking about that, is she got into a car accident while she was out there where she was living at, right? And the reason she got into that car accident because she was a drunk driver. Yeah. She didn't get hurt. Nobody got hurt, right? So I had to. When that happened, I said, like, I'm in a relationship with her, so I can't be just sitting here just let her do doing this. This is crazy. So next time she came down, a couple of days. She came down for I don't know how many days. A couple of days I let it go, just to get a feeling for it. One day she comes and picks me up in my car drunk from work. Mm. So I'm a little upset, but I tuck that anger. And when we get back to the house, I talk to her and I say, hey, I see there's an issue. And I talk about the drinking and everything like that. This is the most mature I've ever been. I said, I don't have the tools to be able to help you because I'm not a therapist or anything like that, and I don't know why you're doing this. But if you want to go to a therapist and get some help for this, then I will go with you, right? You know what I'm saying? Or I know you live out there. I might not be able to go with you, but I can help you find one. I'll be there to support in any way fashion you need to be. But this is just not sustainable. You just got in a car accident. You picked me up drunk in my car. This is dangerous what you're doing. Not only for your health. It's for your health and your physical well-being. Now, what happens and why that was such a tough choice for me is because when you have those talks with people for the first time, how they react is not always going to be a good reaction.
Yeah, facts.
So when I say, hey, sometimes you do accountability and you like, hey, because you don't want you're scared of what the change is going to be, especially with dealing with another person.
Yeah.
That conversation led to us breaking up.
Yeah.
Now, the conversation that I had wasn't of nobody raised their voice. It was a very calm conversation. I was very calm, actually.
Right. But
she felt, and it might be a cultural thing because she was a first generation African in the United States, right? But when I suggested the therapy, that's probably where things went, the other way. If you're like, why do I need therapy? I'm not crazy, this and that, right? But we all know that's not the reason that people find therapy. Mm-hmm. But that was a thing where I took accountability for somebody, for myself, and seeing something that was wrong and saying something, but also the fact of like the reason I didn't want to, or the hesitation that I had, was because of it would change the dynamic of our relationship. And not to say I didn't really I did really like the girl, but I couldn't say I really like you, I have feelings for you, and then allow that to happen. So it was just, you giving up something. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that's the same thing for me too. Like, I know a situation right now where, I could hold somebody accountable for their actions, but a part of me is like, let me just wait until I feel like they're ready to hear what I have to say. Because I, don't want to waste energy on saying a bunch of stuff and the person not even receive it, because I'm not about to waste my time. But then there's also like this part where it's like, I know it's going to shift the way that our relationship is going to go moving forward. So then it's like, what do you do in those situations, And for me, I think like it's about determining what's more important. Like, is what I'm holding that person accountable for, or what they're holding me accountable for, like something that's going to change my well-being, my experience of life, their well-being, their experience of life, or is it something that I can like let go of? And sometimes it's not, and that's when it becomes difficult.
Well, I mean, and also keep in mind that stuff like that is like the gratitude, or you might not ever get gratitude for the other person. You might take accountability and say, hey, this is what I see. I just want to make sure that and you might not never get gratitude for that person, or that gratitude might not be immediate.
Which is okay if you're doing it for the right reasons.
Correct. It's easier said than done though, because like if you're connected to a person in such a way, and then you like, this might end that relationship, that's a difficult thing to do.
It is.
Now, for the example that I gave, later on, me and her had a conversation, and then we ended up being good. But it's just a fact of living in the moment. You know what I'm saying? You have a connection with someone, and you got to tell them, like, hey, what's going on with this? You have a conversation about trying to offer support, and then it turns left. And then that relationship ends. It's a hard thing. So accountability, what's up?
But I also think it depends on the relationship. Because I feel like if you have a healthy enough relationship where there are boundaries and you guys get in each other's intent, it's easier to have conversations about accountability with certain people. You hold me accountable for things all the time. I hold you accountable for things all the time. It's not an issue.
Yeah, but you're talking about different personalities, though. Like,
so that's a good thing that you said that. So maybe it's about the personality, and also about whatever place that person is at. Right. Because if that person is not in a place to receive what you have to say, or they're dealing with a lot, it might be more difficult to get some sort of critique about what they can or can't change.
Yeah, it's just like people like me and you both can intake information and be like, okay, all right, like
this is what it is, and this is what it's now.
Correct. A lot of people don't like. Again, I think that's another accountability on that part, because if you can say, hey, this is accountability of me saying, hey, I want to look out for your health and well-being, then that makes that person have to take accountability for what's going on. And then if they're not ready to do that, that's what it is. So it's kind of a thing where it's personality based, because like if you're not ready, like you said, if you're not ready to reflect and see what's going on and what's wrong, because it's too difficult, you don't want to deal with that at the moment, you're ready to take the more easier route than doing that, then
So is a relationship toxic if you can't hold each other accountable?
In what fashion? I guess when you say accountability, what level are we talking about?
Just accountability. Like, if you aren't able to offer critique or feedback to that person, is it still considered a healthy relationship?
Yeah, I would say it's not. But to be honest with you, it's most relationships.
You think so?
From I have a lot of friends who are women, and I can tell you right now,
Okay.
most of it is most stuff. I mean, I will say that it takes a lot for a person, either for a partner to give that feedback.
So I feel like, and this has happened even with me, like, you know, when why you saying I feel like even with me, like, when I get feedback from certain people, it doesn't bother me. Like, I'm just like, okay, cool. But if my partner gives me feedback for specific things, maybe it's because I know this person, and I feel like if they also have to work on that specific area, not even just my partner, I feel like if you gotta work on the same thing that you telling me to work on, don't come to me until you got your stuff together.
But that's not.
But you know, that's my visceral reaction.
I'm gonna say, because like that's not correct. Though.
No, because I feel like, okay, I think that there's a difference between saying, hey, this is something that you can change, right? But it's like, don't try to hold me accountable for something that you don't. I can't receive that. Is that bad?
You worried about the wrong thing.
I'm not, though.
Yeah, you is.
Because that person doesn't have credibility.
But you worried about them.
What do you mean? So like someone who, I'll give an example.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Because
so
I would say I know drug addicts who give great advice, but I don't say, hey, because you're a drug addict, I can't take your advice. If it rings true, it rings true.
That's true. That's true. But I feel like how someone says something and the relationship, I feel like the relationship that I have with you determines whether or not I value what you say to me. And maybe that's a bad thing on my part, because I feel like, let's say for example, it's somebody that I don't have a relationship with. All right, cool. It's not a problem. Somebody I do have a relationship with that is healthy. Okay, cool. But if you're someone who's inflicted trauma, pain, angst, anger, sadness, all the little emotions, you feel me? I feel like, who are you to hold me accountable when you haven't even, you know what I'm saying, taking accountability for the things that you've done to me?
But isn't that counterintuitive?
Is it? Because I feel like, I don't think so.
The reason I say that is because the part of accountability and the part I was talking about is like you seeing your bullshit and be like, okay, yeah, that's some bullshit, right? So if somebody says something, even no matter what the relationship you have with them, right? Because I think that's an issue that people have, like, and this is off the grid, but like, you know, people see something that somebody that they don't like say something true and they don't accept it.
But there's a difference.
What's the difference?
You cannot like somebody, and that's one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they say something that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say, for example, you know what I'm saying, you did me wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
You was a horrible friend.
Mm-hmm.
You was out here making up lies about me, doing
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff, right?
Uh-huh.
And, you know, I'm like, hey, like, I'm trying to come to you and be like, listen, I really feel like X, Y, and Z that you did was messed up. You know, moving forward, I would like our relationship to work, but this is what I need for us to still have a friendship, right? Very healthy, very whatever, right? Opening the door. And let's say, for example, that person basically says, I didn't do anything wrong. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not taking no accountability. So you don't have like a relationship with that person, right? Then that person comes to you and is like, you need to do this, and you need to do this, and you need to do this. For me, I'm not going to lie to you. Even if I know I need to do those things, in that conversation, maybe this is just me being petty, you know? In that conversation, I'm not going to receive what you have to say because you can't even take account of. That's my number one pet peeve. is hypocrisy. I do not like hypocrites.
But everybody is.
But I'm saying, but there's a different level. There's intentional hypocrisy, and then there's just hypocrisy. You know, so if you come into me, you step to me, right?
Okay.
Right? Let's say for example, remember that situation that you said with your friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say your friend came to you and was like, man, you need to start doing this and this and this. You're gonna be like, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? What are you talking about?
No, I won't be like that.
Really?
So in my experience in life, most of the very, very life-changing feedback that I've ever gotten in life is from people that don't do the same thing.
What do you mean that don't do the same thing?
Like, don't hold themselves accountable or anything like that. Right?
Really?
Yeah.
The worst advice that I've gotten have been from people who don't hold themselves accountable.
Yeah. Like, for me, I've gotten things that what they said was true, and I ended up changing. I can't think of an example now, but like, there's things, or like they've said things that I think that's one of the. I think that's why I think that's one of the reasons I moved to Minnesota. I think somebody was talking to me, and it was like, all you're doing. And again, they were doing the same thing. They was like, all you doing is hanging around with the same dudes who in the streets, and you ain't even in the streets. You ain't even getting no money from the streets, and you in the same type of, like, you putting yourself in the same environment, and then you ain't really doing nothing. And I went home and I went to sleep, and I went home and I laid him. I'm like, yo, he ain't lying. Like, I ain't like, and I had made a decision to do something and like come here. But like, there's times where like people out there, like people who aren't doing the same things that I'm doing, that you might think are like, you know, I don't know, I don't know.
I don't think it's about doing the same things that you're doing. Because let me make this clear. It's not about a person's experience. And it's not about a person's background. It's not about any of that, right? Like, I could listen. I pride myself in being able to receive feedback from kids and adults, young, old, experienced, inexperienced. I think for me, the disconnect is when you have done something to me, right? Specifically to me. Like something, you've wronged me. And then you try to hold a conversation with me and try to hold me accountable. When you haven't even taken accountability for the things that you've done wrong to me, it's hard for me to be able to receive it. I might take a look at it and I might actually make those changes. But receiving it in the moment and hearing, those are the most difficult accountability conversations for me. It's difficult for me to be able to sit there and be like, you know what, let me take a look at this. Because I feel like at that point, I'm giving myself to you for what? Like, I'm opening myself up and saying that I need to make these changes to someone who doesn't give a damn about me. So it's hard for me to receive that.
But
does that make sense?
It makes sense. I was, for me, the changes aren't for them, it's for you.
Of course.
But no, I'm situations like that. I think those are specific to, like, for me, relationships type deal, like where somebody.
That was fun.
Oh, what the hell? Relationship type things where like somebody, like I was in a relationship with someone, they did something to me, but then in a conversation, they'll like say something to me, but even through my anger where something was done to me, in my mind, I won't tell them this, but in my mind, I'd be like, motherfucker, right, you right. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying.
So,
I'm not going to admit it or in that conversation take accountability and say, hey, I need to make this change. Yeah. I might still make the change, but I'm not going to let you know that you... Isn't that horrible? That's just horrible. It is.
I think that's a little, that's a little... Because I would say, yeah, like, to be honest with you, I kind of have a thing where... So I would say it out loud, that I would think it in my mind, like, yeah, you're right, and I might say you're right out loud. But it's not to give them satisfaction or anything, but because, like, if that changes me and betters it... So there's the other petty side to it. If it changes me and makes me into a better person... then at that point now, me becoming a better person is the best revenge for someone who did something.
Yeah, but it's like, anyways, we can move on from that. I think that's where my pettiness shows, in that area.
Hey, man. The best revenge is success, right? It is what it is, but yeah, that's all I have. That's all we have for you. All I have for accountability.
Well, that's it for today, and you know what I'm saying.
Right. Yo, check this out. That's about it for today. That's all we had about accountability. Just everybody be safe. See y'all next time. Hopefully next time Sabrina will be able to join us. If not, we try to bring a
guest speaker
in to be able to join us. Sorry. But y'all be safe and have fun out there.